The White House confirmed today there are no visitor logs for the president's Delaware home, where the president's lawyers found additional documents with potentially classified markings. Laura Barón-López is with me here now and brings us up to speed. Laura, welcome. So what did the White House say today about these visitor logs?
So White House spokesperson for the White House counsel's office, Ian Sam, said that there are no visitor logs for the president's Wilmington home, that is a personal residence, and in keeping with past traditions for presidents, that's personal. They're not going to keep records there, but that the White House, of course, has visitor logs, and they reinstated that after President Biden's predecessor did away with those. This response from the White House comes after House Republicans, in particular Congressman Jim Comer, who's going to lead the Oversight Committee, requested those logs and asked for them, even though they never asked for them in the case of the seizure of classified documents from former President Trump.
And obviously, this is after additional documents were found in Wilmington over the weekend. What do we know at this point about those?
So we have a little bit more of a fleshed out timeline here that was partially provided by President Biden's private lawyer. So on November 2nd, 2022, Biden's attorneys find documents at the Penn Biden Center, immediately notify archives. November 9th, 2022, DOJ launches its assessment. Then December 20th, 2022, President Biden's attorneys find documents at his Wilmington residence inside the garage, and they notify the DOJ. Then, just last week, January 11th of this year, Biden's attorneys find one potentially classified document, again, one single document in the Wilmington residence. And then January 12th, DOJ takes possession of those 5 additional documents found at the Wilmington residence. And that was the new revelation over this weekend, was those 5 additional documents. One thing here is, of course, that the White House is facing a lot of questions about transparency. That's a political issue for them because the president has prided himself on having a transparent White House. But legally, there is nothing requiring the White House, or even former President Trump's in his case, or DOJ, or National Archives to disclose when they've found these documents to the public.
Mostly, of course, those questions that you just mentioned are coming from Republicans who are in charge of the House now, and they say they plan to investigate President Biden's handling of these documents. What are those questions? What are those Republicans focusing on?
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy just said today that, of course, he wants as much information as possible. But Congressman Jim Comer, who I mentioned earlier, who's going to chair oversight, admitted that this isn't necessarily about classified documents for House Republicans.
At the end of the day, my biggest concern isn't the classified documents, to be honest with you. My concern is how there's such a discrepancy in how former President Trump was treated by raiding Mar-a-Lago, by getting the security cameras, by taking pictures of documents on the floor, by going through Melania's closet, versus Joe Biden. They're like, okay, your personal lawyers who don't have security clearance, they can go through.
Congressman Comer said right there that this is about the difference in treatment. Well, there's a very real factual reasons why President Trump was treated differently. He withheld these documents for more than a year, and so did his team. And DOJ, National Archives, expended a lot of different steps to try to get these documents back. And it wasn't until a judge signed off on a search warrant, because they had real concern that the former president was obstructing the ability to obtain these documents and was also potentially violating the Espionage Act. I think it's also important to note that as Republicans widely are calling for more information on Biden, they have not said that they would investigate former President Trump's classified documents at all.
And quickly, Laura, how are Democrats in Congress responding at this point?
Right. So Congressman Adam Schiff, as well as a number of other Democrats, have been calling for a damage assessment. And here's what Congressman Schiff had to say this weekend.
I think Congress ought to handle both situations the same way, and that is, we have to get a briefing from the intelligence community about any potential risk to national security of where those documents were and what they contained.
So just like they called for in the case of President Trump's classified documents, Democrats are again calling for a damage assessment, which is very common when classified documents are found where they're not supposed to be found.
Laura Barón-López, thank you very much.
Thank you.